Hello, it's me, Josh. Welcome to Story Time. Today we're going to be reading a Mr. Men story from the Mr. Men library called Mr. Perfect. It's all by Roger Hargreaves. And don't worry, we'll get to the Little Miss library as well eventually. It's all your little misses out there. We'll get there. Stick around. Plenty of stories to come. And if you like Story Time, please click the subscribe button below, click that bell, and you can visit the page and read these stories whenever you like. Okay. Mr. Perfect. It was a perfect summer's day, and on this perfect summer's day, Mr. Perfect was looking more perfect than usual. Not a hair out of place. Mr. Perfect there, standing there, just hanging out a perfect summer's day. Mr. Perfect lived in a tip-top cottage. And on this perfect summer's day, his house was also looking even more perfect than usual. Not a curtain out of place. Look at that. All decorated nice. I suppose you're wondering why Tip Top Cottage was looking so perfect. I shall tell you. It was Mr. Perfect's birthday, and he was having a party. There was a knock at the door. "Perfect!" cried Mr. Perfect. There he is, peeping through the window there. See who's arriving for his birthday party. Perfect. "How very kind of you," he said, when he saw that all his guests had brought wonderful looking presents. "Please do come in, and if nobody minds, we'll open the presents later." Nobody minded in the least. Well, almost nobody. Oh, I wonder who... "What's that?" roared Mr. Uppity. "I don't have time to waste, you know. You'd better make sure we don't get bored today." Do you think this upset Mr. Perfect? I don't know. I wouldn't know. What do you think? Some yeses, some nos? Okay, let's find out. Of course not. Mr. Perfect had perfect manners, unlike rude Mr. Uppity. "Oh no, my dear Mr. Uppity, we shan't be bored today," he replied. "First of all, shall we dance?" There he goes. He's putting a record onto the record player, it looks like. Play some music. Dancing's always fun. And everybody danced, even Mr. Uppity. But although he danced, Mr. Uppity couldn't manage a smile. That's funny. You can see Mr. Uppity there, still frowning, but on the dance floor. Unfortunately, Mr. Clumsy, being his usual clumsy self, broke a pile of plates. Do you think this upset Mr. Perfect? Of course not. "Don't worry, Mr. Clumsy," said Mr. Perfect. And being the perfect person he was, and not in the least bit clumsy, he produced a whole lot more plates. Mr. Clumsy, poor fellow, broke everything. Broke all the plates. Made of cardboard. Clever Mr. Perfect. There we go. Brought out some plates made of cardboard after that. Good job. Then he brought in a cake. It was huge. It looked wonderful. It smelled terrific. And it does look like a yummy cake there. Love cake. Mr. Greedy thought it tasted delicious. He gobbled up the whole cake in 3 seconds flat. There wasn't a crumb left for anybody else. Do you think this upset Mr. Perfect? Of course not. Being perfect, he had already guessed what would happen. Quickly, he brought out lots of small cakes. There was plenty for everybody, even Mr. Perfect. But as he was not greedy, he only ate one. One cake was just perfect for him. Once everything had been eaten, Mr. Perfect opened his presents. He said as many thank yous as there were presents. Well mannered. "Well, not quite. What about my present?" cried Mr. Mean. Mr. Mean's parcel was so small that Mr. Perfect did not see it. Mr. Perfect opened the tiny parcel wrapped in newspaper. There's Mr. Mean there. Wonder what he got him as a present. "Oh, Mr. Mean," said Mr. Perfect, "you've given me a lump of coal. How kind of you. It's delightful." "If I'd known, I'd only have given him half a lump," grumbled Mr. Mean. "Oh, if I'd known, I'd only..." A lump of coal as a present. "That's it. I've had enough," cried Mr. Uppity suddenly. "I'm fed up with you, Mr. Perfect. And do you know why? I'll tell you. I've discovered that there is a most enormous, unbearable, exasperating fault with you. Would you be so kind as to tell me what that might be? Asked Mr. Perfect as politely as ever. Don't you understand? Cried Mr. Uppity. Your fault is... Mr. Uppity is accusing Mr. Perfect, and Mr. Perfect's like, what is it? What's my fault? That you have no faults. What a Mr. Uppity thing to say. Alright. Well, that's Mr. Perfect. Thank you so much for reading the story. I hope you liked it. I'll be back again with another story very, very soon. I'm Josh. This is Story Time. Bye for now. Not forever.